Professor Andrew King-Ries.
So, hello. Right, there we go. So, what Betsy's talking about is important. We have the idea of the Montana Constitution, right? And then we're going to have a lot of discussion about the Montana Constitution and the federal Constitution. And so as a prosecutor for a number of years, right, I am warped into this sort of prosecution mindset. So that's the bent that I'm coming from today. Now, when we talk about the Constitution, you have to recognize that the constitutions are, both of these constitutions are written in such a way that it's somewhat of an antagonistic relationship between the individual and the state. In other words, the constitutions are designed to protect you from the state, be that the federal government or the state government in all of its various branches. Right? So you're thinking about, sometimes you can start to think about knowing your rights as being this sort of antagonistic thing. We are going to assert our rights against the government, and that's important. You should know your rights and you should assert them. And I'll probably say that many times today. But I also want to recognize that the state is not always a bad thing. Having done a lot of domestic violence prosecution, I actually think that the state can be a very good thing and a very positive impact on a lot of people's lives. So I just want to, as we start tonight, thinking about the relationship there between the individual and the state, and recognizing that while the state may want to get into your privacy and things like that, there are good times and good reasons to do that. Being Domestic Violence Awareness Month here in October, I think it's important to recognize that domestic violence is one of those areas or times that I think it's important that the state is involved. And so hopefully we'll flesh out some of that balance tonight as we talk about your rights and the relationship between the individual and the state.
Thanks, Professor. Josh Van de Wetering.
Thank you, Brett. Can you all hear me back there? I am here and thank Brett and all those organizations for the invitation. I'm here, as Brett mentioned, partly because I'm a federal prosecutor, which means I have to give my standard disclaimer up front, which is I'm here based on my experience as a prosecutor, my experience as an adjunct professor. I don't sit here tonight representing the U.S. Department of Justice, though, and no one should take anything I say to be representative of the department's positions or the positions of the U.S. Attorney's Office. Okay, good on that. So, okay, here's the real reason I'm here. I'm really here because I think it's important for people in the U.S. Department of Justice to come out of our marble buildings sometimes and show folks that we're regular people. I do think I have the best job in the whole world because I get to serve the people of the United States in criminal prosecutions. And as Professor King-Ries said, it's important to uphold the laws because those are safe laws. Keeping us safe is one of the ways we remain free. And I am delighted to be able to do that work. I'm honored to be entrusted with a portion of the police power in a free society, and I try to think of those somewhat opposing concepts often. The police power in a free society, that's a big deal. That's important. That's a delicate balance, and I and my colleagues are honored and get the pleasure of working with constitutional law and working on that balance every day. So that's really the main thing that brings me out. The other thing that brings me out is I am, as Brett mentioned, I prosecute drug crimes. I suspect a lot of you have a great deal of interest maybe in drug crimes, and we find a lot of our Fourth Amendment issues in drug crimes or a rise in the concept of drug crimes with a lot of searches. So I'm here hoping that people ask questions. I'm happy to try and answer any questions as best I can. And sort of on a substantive note, I will say if the marijuana patch is big, your Montana rights are going to protect you.
And what is the classification between big and small?
Should I answer that now, or should I?
No, we'll
Okay.
Thanks so much. Mr. Craig Shannon.
unless you're a medical marijuana caregiver and you're registered with the state, Josh might be wrong. But then again, he's federal, right? So you got to worry about that one too. Maybe we should talk to Josh about that. I'm a human being first. I'm a lawyer. I'm a guy with a law degree. And I'm here because Brett asked me to be here. And I'm also here because I think this is important. I do believe that. See, forewarned is forearmed, and I believe that if you guys don't know what your rights are, then you're basically, the way I see it anyway, not free. And you're not making it, your decisions are not intelligent, they're not informed. And I don't believe, I don't believe that the government, this is what I believe, okay? I don't believe the government's going to look out for your best interests, because if you could trust that they would, you wouldn't have to worry about knowing your rights. So that's why we're doing this, I believe. Because if you don't know them, then nobody's going to tell you what they are when you're out there on the street. So I want to hear your questions, and I want to answer them as best I can, and I'm sure everybody else does too, but that's why I'm here. And I do criminal defense. I've spent my career keeping people out of cages. That's what I do. So, thanks, Brett.
And finally, Mr. James Lemcke.
Jim is good, thank you. So I'm the guy that these folks all warn you about, right? When we talk about your rights, we're generally talking about protections that protect citizens, you, from me, or at least from government intrusions that are unreasonable or overzealous. And that's what we're talking about. That's why the Bill of Rights was created in the first place. You've probably heard that when police officers are hired, they're sworn in, but what you may not know is what we're swearing to when we get hired. The oath we take when we get into our position, the first thing we do as police officers is swear to protect, promise to protect and defend the United States Constitution. So we've got you having all these rights afforded you by the Constitution, and we've got the police on the other side seemingly promising to defend and protect that Constitution. Almost makes it sound like we're on the same side. We all want the same thing. So what we need to do is, if we're all working within the same lines, we need to understand what those lines are so that you and I can make informed decisions. Right? So as we discuss these rights, understand that everybody has rights. They apply to everybody, even the people who would do you harm. So as we talk about these things, you've got to look at them from both sides. Consider a couple scenarios. A drunk driver comes around the corner and slams into your car. You had no involvement in that. But now remember, before an arrest is made, we've got to consider this guy's rights, and before a successful prosecution is made. Another scenario might be somebody stole your iPod. You've got no proof, but you know it's in the dorm room next to you. So we've got some search issues, we've got some interview issues. You know, the suspect certainly has some protections. So if you understand your rights, you can make better decisions. But on the flip side of that, you'll also understand the limitations we work when we're trying to serve you.